I think we should get started. I think we should do this thing. I've got my favorite coffee mug. Bunch of my favorite people here in chat. I say we do it. All right. Well, happy Tuesday to everybody. Good evening, morning, afternoon, whenever it is you're watching this. This is the year in review stream. So every year, I think this will be the third year that I've done this. Happy Tuesday to those who celebrate. I think this is the third year I've done this. I know I did it last year. I can't remember if I did it the year before. So yeah, I'm hoping to just keep doing this. My goal here is to tell you about what the year was like for me as Gila RPGs and what all that entailed. As sort of like an overview. Going to talk about project releases, statuses of various projects, things like that. We're going to start by talking about social media. Talk about events, things that I did during the year or that stuck out to me during the year. I talk about goals because I write goals every year. So we're going to assess how did I do on my goals that I wrote last year. And then talk about my goals for 2024. And then we'll end with finances. I always end with finances just because I think talking about money is super important. I think it's important for us to have open conversations about money and stuff like that. But I also know some people are just not interested in that. Or, you know, they're uncomfortable with it or whatever. And so I always say that for the end. So, you know, if you want to hang out for all the other stuff and then bounce, that's cool. A thing to kind of note before we dive in. One, to reiterate, if you have any questions at any time during this thing, feel free to ask if you're watching this on stream. If you're watching a VOD later, you can leave it in a comment and hopefully I'll be able to answer it. I'm a pretty open book. I'm happy to answer questions about my experiences with all of this. One thing I kind of want to just like flavor the review, the annual review with this idea that I'm going to be speaking about all of this stuff from the perspective of somebody who wants to do this full time, who is interested in trying to make this financially viable. Before we get into any of that, and I'll address this with finances, understanding, of course, that I come from a place of extreme privilege. I have a full-time job that pays for all my bills and everything like that, but I would like this to be my full-time job. We'll see how that is possible later on. But yeah, I'm an open book, so we'll just talk about anything, honestly, and we'll just go from there. Let's do this thing. Let's talk about social media. First, I should like talk about social numbers because this is what I did last year, and I think it's interesting information. Just to kind of talk about numbers. I like numbers. I'm a data guy. I'm a researcher by trade. I'm a cognitive psychologist. I do research. I love numbers. So anytime I get a chance to look at them, talk about them, that's interesting to me. So Twitter. I'm at like 67, 50, something like that. Somewhere around there. It fluctuates all the time. That's about 1,700 more from last year. So a decent chunk more. And then a thing to note about Twitter is that I've basically stopped looking at it since September 2nd. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get down to like events later on. What I mean by I've stopped looking at it is I haven't looked at my feed, like my timeline or whatever it's called, the For You. I haven't looked at that since September. I haven't opened it once. The only things that I see when I open up Twitter is my profile, because that's where I tweet from. I look at that page and then I tweet from that page. I never go to the timeline and I look at my DMs. And that's it. And notifications. But basically I have no idea what's going on in the world. And it's amazing. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But so Twitter that's where it's at. I mean, Twitter's been a dumpster fire for months. I mean, it's been a dumpster fire for longer than that, but it's not great. Twitch, I think I'm hovering just under 500 followers. If you're watching right now, you can hit that button. Wouldn't that be neat? That's about 100 more than I had last year, which is pretty cool. Holy shit. Luna? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. YouTube, I'm sitting at 1,700, which is up 900 from last year, which allowed me then to become part of the partner program at YouTube, which means I can... Everybody be on your best behavior. Luna is here. Which means I can, like, put ads on my stuff. It is in no way a lucrative money-making scheme for me, YouTube, but it's a neat milestone for me. It's exciting. It primarily is driven by my RPG and 5-minute videos. Those are pretty much the only things that people really engage with on YouTube. And then most other stuff people aren't super interested in. Itch followers, which is a number that I think is more and more important as I go on. This in particular is really important to me, and I'll explain why. Itch followers is at 3,912-ish. It's 1,300 up. Why are itch followers important? Well, first of all, if you're not familiar with what an itch, like what somebody following on you on itch means, it means that if somebody follows you on itch and you post something on itch, like a new game or a devlog or something like that, there's that feed button at the top of itch, which maybe not a lot of people look at. I look at it. And what it does is it shows you when everybody does that, or when they rate games and all that sort of stuff. And this is how I overcome my problem of not being on YouTube and not knowing when people release things. Is by following them on itch, I can now see when people are actually releasing things. Which I couldn't really do before when I was not on Twitter and I wasn't actively following people on itch, is that I had no idea what people were making. So it's really, really helpful. And then, obviously it's helpful as a designer because, you know, when you do devlogs and posts and stuff like that, a decent number of people will find your stuff through that rather than social media and things like that. So Twitch followers is super, super great. Yeah, Michael, favorite thing is adding a heart when a friend ups their prices. Absolutely. I love that. I would love sponsors on YouTube. Wouldn't that be so neat, Luna? Wouldn't that be so neat for HelloFresh to sponsor me? They do email you too, which is really nice. The automatic emails that Itch sends. Mailing list is at like 2,200. It's up 400 from last year, which is not great. Everybody talks about how important a mailing list is. And let me talk about a mailing list. One, my turnover rate click-through rate on emails is trash. It's really, really trash. It's bad. So I get why everybody says you want this, because again, this is how you contact people, but it doesn't really work. And two is I know I have put more than 400 people into the mailing list since last year, just from conventions where people say, yes, I would like to be added to the mailing list, which means people are just dumping themselves off the mailing list immediately, right? They say yes, they subscribe, and then they abandon it. So like it has huge turnover and it doesn't have great click through, which is like not great. I'll take Blue Apron, Josh. I'll take anything at this point. The big social media thing for me, the biggest thing, and I was just talking to I just posted this in the, I do sponsorships for other RPG people. I just sent a post in my Discord server. My big social media thing for this year, besides not being on it anymore, Twitter that is that I reopened the Gila RPGs Discord. If you're not familiar, there used to be a Gila RPGs Discord. It was actually pretty big. And then it got too big. There were like general chat channels which people were just posting random shit in, and there's like a Destiny channel because we're all Destiny heads, and there were a bunch of people who were just there to talk to each other about playing Destiny. And it got kind of bad. There were a lot. There was just some bad eggs, and it got very stressful. And here's the thing about having a Discord server for your own, which is you're basically giving people 24/7 access to you, right? Because they could just ping you, and I know you can turn off notifications and stuff like that, but like Discord servers, the reason they stress people out and the reason you join a Discord server and then mute it immediately is because it's so stressful to be always online. And Discord is especially always online. There's doom scrolling on Twitter, and then there's just Discord is always on, and the channels are always being updated. That's really hard. It's really not good for your brain. So I closed it. I nuked it. And then I that was a good thing for me. And then I eventually reopened it this year in a much smaller capacity with an emphasis on it being a design-focused Discord. So it's there. People can join it, but there's no general chats. There's no chats for anything other than people who want to design RPGs. And there's channels for people who are doing stuff with my stuff, and then there's channels for people who are doing their own things that are totally unrelated to Gila RPGs, but it's still all only design. It's smaller, more contained, focused. It's really good. And it's, I'm happy with that decision. And there's, some of my favorite people from the first server are back in the new one, which is great. And there's new folks who I didn't know before are there, and it's a good place. I'm really, really happy and thankful for my server. So if you're watching this and you're one of those folks, thank you. If you want to join it, there's links hidden around the internet, but again, it's pretty much just for designers. People who are designing things. If you want to post memes, there was somebody who joined who was like, where's the meme channel? I was like, oh, I need to get rid of the internet. Not the place for you. So that's social media. We're going to come back and talk about the Twitter thing later on, about why I've sort of stepped away and what that effect has been, but that's in the events category. We're in the just social numbers. So next up is projects. Next we're going to talk about projects. So we're going to talk about things that I've made this year, things that I'm working on, Kickstarters and things like that. And to preface this year felt like a slow year for me. For me, this felt like a quiet year. That wasn't very productive, which is a weird thing to say, because I did a decent amount of things, but it felt slower paced than years past where I would just crank shit out. So we'll talk about why I perceive it that way when we talk about projects. Man, this is very epic music. This is not what I was expecting this channel. All right, completed projects. I completed and released four things. Null, Hunt, Pox, and Dusk Denizens. Those are the four things that are completely done and out. Not playtests, not MVPs, nothing like that. Talk about that stuff. This is start to finish, it's over. It's done. Null was the first thing. I did that as a sprint crowdfund in February, very end of February. When I say sprint crowdfund, those are 1 week or less. Borrowed heavily from the Travis Hill style. That's how Travis does his crowdfunding, and it's the best to do sprint crowdfunding. So Null funded it, crowdfunded it a week, released it in May. Null was originally going to be two different things. It was going to be Null and Void. It was going to be actually two games smashed into one. And then I took that Void component and I've moved it over here. It's going to be a Nova thing next year. Null was really just a fun a fun idea for me to like just get a weird one-shot game out of my system. I did that, and then I was like, I like this. And then I did Hunt right after that. So Hunt, I want to talk about Hunt. I want to talk about the development process of Hunt and everything like that. Hunt is also a one-shot game. So I was sort of in that mode from Null, and I wanted to make Hunt. And Hunt was just kind of an idea that hit me. I started working on it around when I released Null, I think. I don't know. And it came together very quickly, like mechanically. It's one of those games that just, this song is so slow compared to the last one. This is whiplash. It came to me mechanically, came together very quickly. Early onset of when I was starting to work on this idea of what Lumen 2.0 would be, which is still not technically released, and I don't think I'm ever going to actually release Lumen 2.0, by the way. Tangent, I don't think I'm ever going to write it. Lumen, the doc is out there, and it gives you my design philosophy, and it's a lot of work writing that, and I just don't think I want to write Lumen 2.0. I think I'm just going to make Lumen 2.0 games and let people figure out what it is from that. So Hunt came together very quickly from like a publishing perspective, or like kind of assembling it. I worked with two of my favorite people that I work with a lot now, Galen Peugeot and Mike Riemann. Galen did the art, and I remember coming to Galen because of some like sketch art that he had been doing for other people, and then he did a bunch of sketch art for Nova, which is now starting to appear in things like in Dusk Denizens. And I was like, hey, do you want to do that with Hunt? And he threw it back to me and said, I've got another idea in terms of style. And he did it. And I'm so glad I listened to Galen, because we get this as a result, right? If I had not listened to Galen, we would have gotten art that would have been good, but wouldn't have been this. And I'm so glad that my piece of advice that I give to people is just trust your artists. They know better than you. To just let them do their thing. It's what I do with Galen. It's what I do with Eddie. I just trust them more than I could ever trust myself to put together art direction for something. And so, and I talked with like Eddie about this, and Eddie gets so frustrated dealing with some people who commission him, and they have all these tiny little tweaks that they demand, and it's frustrating, and then the art becomes lifeless because of all these things that they want. And so you got to just trust the artist, because I don't know anything about art, but I know that this looks good, and I could have never told Galen to do this. So, trust your artists. So Galen started throwing art at me. Hunt rapidly came together. I threw Mike the idea of the text, showed him the art. He was sold the second he saw the art. Mike put together the cover, the logo and the cover. And I have to talk about this because this sells people things. This is the most powerful cover on any book that I have. We strategically at PAX put a table copy of Hunt pointed in every direction that people could have approached our booth from, because routinely we saw people walk, slow down, see the Hunt cover, and then go pick up the Hunt book and want to read it. It's really good. It's a very good cover. And Mike nailed it. And I'm glad that he went with the sort of the approach for the cover and the interior of the book itself. It's very clean. It's very good. Mike is just fantastic. And, Mike is my best friend. So, it's also great working with Mike because again, I trust him. I know he's gonna do things better than I can. um, and so yeah, the hunt, all of Hunt came together very, very quickly, and it went straight to itch. So I didn't crowdfund Hunt, and it went really well. It's one of my more popular games from the last year. Besides Rune, it's the second most popular game, and I'm really happy with how well it did as a non crowdfunded book. Yeah, Michael, that's all you gotta do is just become friends with layout people. Just to give a brief glimpse into finances, Mike and I have a profit sharing model too. So that's how we do things. So Mike wants the books to succeed because they continue to succeed and he continues to make money. It's a good model for us. Works out really well for us. So I'm really happy with how Hunt came together. I'm really, really happy with the game. I think it's really cool. It's one of the games that a lot of people have like come and like talked to me about. Like, hey, I actually played this game, which I don't get I get, but I don't get it tons and tons. And the reason so many people come up and say that about Hunt, even though it came out this year, is it's a one-shot game. So they play it. You can actually sit down and play it and go, oh, I did it. I experienced Hunt. Which, you know, I tell everybody all my games are one-shottable. But this is specifically designed for that. Luna, I think that's a great idea. Partnering up with an artist like that, creating that partnership, it's a great idea. Pox came very soon after that. Released Pox a month later. It's a supplement to Hunt and also went straight to itch and honestly didn't do well. It didn't do well. Like Hunt was popular. And I thought, oh, cool. Maybe people want a supplement for it. And people did not want a supplement for it turns out. It did real middling on itch and has sold a few physical copies. I have way too many printed copies of this scene. But I think it's cool. It's a couple more nights. I'm happy with it. And then the exact opposite, not in terms of sales, but in terms of my vibes and my feeling about it, is Dusk Denizens. Which is just a small little trio of Nova books, little 8-page zines that are just like, here's what you call it. Here's like a little bit of lore about each of these factions. Here's some new units, an optional rule, and finally starting to use some of Galen's very cool art with Mike Raymond's very cool layout. I have so much fun writing this. Is it a big ticket item that's making tons of money? Nope, doesn't need to be. I had fun writing this. And I'm very happy that it's out there. And you know, some people have picked it up and it's cool. That's all I released this year. Yeah, budgets were tight after Gen Con. So that's my complete releases. Let's talk about Kickstarters. No, we already kind of talked about. Quick one. Love the Sprint crowdfund. I'll be doing more of that next year. Rune card collection. Real rough experience. Real rough experience. Basically, the process by which we got quotes for the cards was wildly off. And basically just barely broke even on it. I have no intention on doing a card thing for a while unless I work with Logan Dean on it, which I am, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But like Logan actually knows about card games and stuff like that, and so working with Logan will make the next card game or card thing better. The card collection was a disaster. Almost a massive financial disaster, and like we came up with a creative solution which not still not great. Still not great. And then there's Reap, which is currently in layout right now. Kickstarted that earlier in the year. And Reap is an interesting one for me. Here's why it's interesting. Again, without getting into finances, I'll wait till later. Rune, hands down, was my most successful game this year. Rune is my most successful game of all time. And it's only been out a year. It's been really good. A lot of people like it. And a lot of people want more stuff from it. And so I thought, well, cool, I'm making this Necromancer version of Rune. People will love this. And they did. And it funded and everything. It took longer to fund than I hoped. And it funded. And it did okay. I think my mind got busted by how popular Rune was. And me thinking that Reap was going to, do gangbusters. And it did well. I'll talk about what well means when we talk about finances. But I was confused. But that's okay. So, the reason my brain thinks I didn't do a lot this year is because this is not that many releases. This is a supplement. This is a real tiny supplement. And then a zine-sized one-shot and a book-sized one-shot. And my brain goes, you didn't make a lot this year. And then I remembered that I made a bunch of playtests. And that's really what I did this year. This year, I set the foundation for what next year is going to be in a big way. I wrote the Gila hack, which I'm really, really excited about. Oh God, I'm dropping everything on my desk. I wrote the Gila hack, which I'm super, super excited about. I got my little print copy here that I made for myself. It's gonna be my fantasy game. It's my take on fantasy. I've been working on it in the background. I haven't posted anything new about it for a while. I'm working on it in the background. Honestly, playing Baldur's Gate this week has made me really think about this game because Baldur's Gate is a meh game at best. And I got feelings about fantasy games. Yeah, a lot of future Spencer notes. So I'm so excited about Gila Hack. I think it's going to be the fantasy game that I've always wanted to play. And that's also why it's really scary for me to work on it, because I've now built it up in my head as this thing that needs to be the perfect game, not for other people, but for the perfect game for me. And I think that kind of messes with you when you put a lot of pressure on a game. So a game that I made alongside it that doesn't have a lot of pressure is Loot. Loot, I'm really excited about. Loot's pretty much written. I just need to make a bunch more loot for it and some faction stuff and things like that. Loot is based off of what I think is a clever loot pool mechanic, heavily borrowed by my love of looter shooters, but might actually be terrible. It might not be good. I don't know. But I think it's good. So I'm going to finish Loot, and these two serve different roles for fantasy for me. Gila Hack, exploration, social stuff, fun advancement through your camp, and beats advancement and Lumen 2.0 sort of stuff. Loot is I want loot. You don't really get there's loot in Gila Hack, but not a lot. This is I just want more stuff. I just want stuff. I want my character to be entirely defined by my stuff. And it's where you get tactical combat. It goes to a grid, all action point, all resources, no dice rolling. And so they serve two different roles for me. One is I just want my shiny loot. I just want to play for an hour and get some cool loot and use my cool new sword that I found. And the other is we're building a world together. We're exploring. We're creating factions and relationships and deeply exploring this world. And I'm not going to try and smash those things together. I'm going to keep them separate. I hope you like it, Josh. I hope you do. Factions, which is the name pending version for my Nova card game, which was a reskin of Gods with a Z, which was my first card game, which I think is actually a really good card game. I just play tested Factions with Logan last weekend. He thinks it's very good. Faction sounds like fascism to me. Yeah, that's fair. It needs to change. Factions is it's good. I think it's a really good, very quick card battler game. I'm really, really excited about it. I think we're gonna play with it as sort of like it's a thing that people play in world, like the shards played in world, like between missions and stuff. You're just playing as the enemy factions fighting each other with cards, and it's fun. It's really good. So yeah. And that's a card game. And it's a card game that I'm willing to make because, again, I'm working with Logan Dean on it, and Logan Dean knows card games. And I know he knows card games because he beats me in Netrunner like every week. The Reap Quick Start technically also came out this year. Don't really need to talk about that much. Reap is coming soon. And then I released the Light Faction Turn, which is something I wrote last summer when I was in Korea. Every morning, I'd go to the cafe near our apartment and sit and write for a little while. And for like 1 week, the faction turn kind of really came together. And then I didn't do anything with it. It just sat in Google Docs for a long time. So I eventually moved it to some docs and released it in the Gila lab, which is where I just put my playtest stuff on itch. And it's basically a board game for Light. It's heavily inspired by my love of Stars Without Numbers, but my interpretation of how that stuff works. And I like it's like Root. It's like Root, very asymmetrical. I like the concept of it, and I would like to do that with other things, but I haven't figured out how yet. So that's my playtest releases and my Kickstarts and my actual releases. In development, I've got these 4 codified in development, and then a billion other things. Reap, technically in development. Text is complete. Mike's working on layout. Expect that in February 2024. Nest is my Few Shot Nova game. So you're playing as the Corvus. You're trying to kill a Hellion target, and you play it, the campaign across 4 sessions. Plus session 0, so I guess 5. So it's a 5-session campaign. That's it. There's no like going off and doing other things. These are the 5 sessions that you play. Rules like Lumen 2.0, base building element as you're building up the nest, your base of operations for your weird little crows, as you try and kill this Hellion. I'm planning on sprint crowdfunding it early 2024. So again, week long, get it put together. I need art and I need layout. Art plan is just to get Galen to take art that he has and zhuzh it up. I need a layout person, and the reason I need a layout person is because Mike is busy, and I can't call on Mike every single time. So I need layout for Nest and I need layout for Luna. So I got to figure out those plans. Luna is my also 1-shot up to few shot thing. It's designed for 1, 3, or 5 sessions. Yeah, I know, Luna. This is very awkward. Luna is also in the Nova verse. You play the Lunar Cult. You are trying to overthrow a city that you have embedded yourselves into. It uses the Resistance system, which is the system that Spire and Heart are made out of, but it uses sort of my interpretation of it, the Resistance Light thing, which is what I made Corvid Court and Seasons on. So that's also specifically designed and has structure for playing it as a one shot. Like your ritual is basically ready to go. Few shot, like 3 sessions, you just need to iron out a few things in your ritual, to a 5 shot. So it's like there's a few more steps you got to do, and then the ritual starts. I'm really excited about it. And it's written. It's done. It's literally done. I just need art and layout for that as well. And then I will crowdfund that in early 2024 as well. And then Dusk, which is the thing I've been talking a lot about on Twitter, is pretty much done. It's written. It's 1 page. Technically, it all fits on one page. Very rules light. It's designed to be a 30 to 60 minute session thing. In the Novaverse, so 3, you can see there's a theme going on here. You play as the shards. The shards are the individuals, the humans, essentially, the not sparks that have to go out into the dusk and deal with things. It's super light right now. It's a modular RPG, which is what Light originally was when I released Light 3 years ago. When I first released Light 3 years ago, it was designed as all fits on 1 page, and then you add on these modular rules as you see fit, whichever ones you want. That's what Dusk is. But now Dusk is in a setting that I made, as opposed to Light, which was just Destiny. And it's hard to make things that are so heavily inspired by another universe, because you don't really feel like you get to play with it as much. But Nova I can play with. So I'm really, really excited about Dusk. I've got the core rules written. I've got kind of 1-ish to 2 modules written. And I'm going to release it in what I think... I think I'm going to release it in 3 volumes. So volume 1 will have the core rules. The core rules will be free, but there will be sort of like a nicer looking version that has that in the modules. And then volume 2, another module pack, and volume 3, which will be sort of like these mini campaigns. And I think that will be Dusk. I'll probably eventually combine it all into an omnibus sort of thing like I did with Light. But for now, I'm going to do it this way. And I'm really excited about Dusk. I've made the decision for myself that Dusk is not a moneymaker. It's not a thing that I've got to like capitalize on or anything like that. It's just fun. I just want to have fun with a project. And so I'm letting Dusk be my silly game. My modular fun thing that I'm having. I've said the word fun a million times, but I want to have fun with it. Yeah, gut punch, right? Realizing that Light was 3 years ago. Hurts, doesn't it? Hurts a lot. Hurts a lot. And then I've got a million other things that I'm working on that are just not far enough in terms of development for me to really talk too much about. There's going to be a Nova 2. There's going to be a Void. Those things are just kind of so far out that it's not really worth talking about yet. There's going to be a Corvid Court thing. Again, far out. These are the things that are sort of worth talking about. Which brings us to events. Talk about events. What happened this year? Let's talk about the things that jumped out to me. A lot of it is international. So I've been working with publishers from around the world to translate and publish my games. That stuff has been going on in the background for a while, and it's just now starting to manifest. So 3 countries have now published one of my games in their language to their audience and everything like that. So there's Slayers is in Spain. Slayers and Rune, I believe, are in Brazil. I think Rune is released. And then Italy has Nova. I don't have it nearby, but the Italians printed the nicest book ever for Nova. It's so nice. It's hardcover, really good material, shiny, like they've glossed the Nova name and everything. Like they made a product. They make my stuff look like shit. I'm really excited about all of these. It's really, really cool to have the games get out there to wider audiences and make it more accessible by having it translated. Um, Italy, I'm particularly excited about just because I'm going to be in Italy next March, and I've talked with my publisher, and I'm going to be at a store in Italy, in Florence, in March, and they've asked me to do to run a session of Nova with Italian locals, and like sign some books. So I'm really excited about that. That'll be cool. Um, the Spaniards love your district. I mean, your district is very good. It's very good. Oh, good. I'm glad they nailed that. Do I remember? I'm working with Grumpy Bear. In is the Italian publisher that I'm working with. And so I'm gonna be working with them. I think to do Hunt. They want to do like a Hunt Pox combo book. And I think they want to do Rune. The Italians are very open about how they feel about games. They do not like the layout of Rune at all. I was like, yeah, I know, I get it, I did it, I made that. It's not good. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna change that. I was like, thanks. Okay. Which is very funny to me. So yeah, that'll be neat. Continuing around the world, I have found a partnership. Like, I have this cool partnership with this guy in Japan who's just like really into Rune. He's a miniature sculptor, and the like miniature scene in Japan is out of this world. Super cool. They're really into it. And he worked with me to do a translated version of Rune into Japanese. And then he started making Rune miniatures just on his own for fun. You can kind of see above my head right there, there's a Rune box. It's a red box. That's his work. I've got another box right behind me. Like, really excited about all the miniatures that he's making, and he's just doing it for fun. He sells them. He sells the books and miniatures in Japan, which is cool. I don't mind that at all. And we're gonna try. He's working with a miniature maker to see if we can make like an official Rune minis thing. We'll see. That's a big old pin in that. Figure that one out later. And then I've got 4 more translations. So working with Japan on Nova. Korea is also translating Nova. I think Korea is translating. Korea is the one that I'm most excited about because my wife is Korean and her family lives in Korea, and it will be cool for them to be able to see my games and know what the hell they are. Germany is working on Slayers, and then I just, while I was at PAX, got asked to do a publishing deal with a Chinese publisher, which is a tremendously huge market. I got to figure out a whole bunch of details about that, but they want Rune. They want Rune and they want Reap. So we'll see. So international publishing has been going well. It's cool to finally like see that stuff starting to show up. Let's talk about social media and burnout. I'm sure we're all burned out about social media all the time. It's pretty terrible. This year I broke. Children yearn for the runes. They do. I broke this year in terms of social media. As I sort of alluded to with closing my Discord server and just being on Twitter all the time and doom scrolling and just seeing discourse all the time, and admittedly being part of discourse, like I'm not immune to all this. I wasn't part of the solution by any means. Social media just really started to get to me, and I'm the kind of person that like it just takes one bad thing for me to be like, my day's ruined now. One bad interaction and my day is ruined. Which is why I tweeted earlier, I saw a link to somebody asking about Nova on Reddit, and I was like, I'm not going to click on it. Not going to click on it. Because odds are it's not great, and it's gonna ruin my day. So I just didn't click on it, and I feel so good about that. So what I decided to do is at the very beginning of September, I decided to basically kill the thing that was really the cause of all of it, which is Twitter. And I talked about this at the start of this stream, but just to sort of reiterate it, what I mean by that is I've not closed my account. I need my account. I need it because it is marketing. It's very effective marketing. But I don't look at the timeline, the feed, whatever it's called. I don't look at it. I haven't looked at it since September. I just look at my notifications, my DMs, and then I tweet from my profile page so that I can't see anything. And that's all I do. I try to mostly just post things that are relatively in the space of like hyper promo. I'm not 100% on that, but I mostly try to not post a bunch of shit. I've been posting a lot about Baldur's Gate recently just because I think it's not good. I don't think it's good. I just don't. But otherwise, I'm off of it. And here's how I'm at with that, because I'm now 3 months sober from Twitter. I have an addictive personality, so going through withdrawal from social media is a real thing. And it was hard at first, definitely hard at first to not open Twitter, and now it's fine. I don't care anymore. But so mental health wise, great. I have been so much less angry and stressed and bummed than I have been in a while, which is really great. Just not being on that stuff is just, it's good for you. It's good for you to not be on it. But it's lonely. It's really lonely. Because so many of you that I'm talking to right now in chat, I know you because of Twitter. Because we interacted on Twitter. I saw your posts, you saw my stuff, we talked. I know you through Twitter. I pretty much know everybody I know in the RPG scene through Twitter. I don't know anybody. I know some people in person, but only because I've met them through Twitter. And it's really a huge disconnect from the scene or community or whatever you want to call it to not be on Twitter anymore, because I have no idea what anybody is doing anymore. I'm not connecting with this right here, what we're doing, and my Discord server are my only ways that I really kind of like connect with people in any way that's actually like a conversation in any way. And this is me talking at you from a webcam. And so it's really kind of lonely, which is a whole other thing that I got to figure out. I don't know how to do that yet. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. I have some ideas, but I don't know. And if anybody has the solution, let me know. And this goes back to the thing I mentioned earlier about the itch followers. Is one of the big problems is I just don't know what people are working on. I have no idea what people are working on. I don't know when people are releasing things, unless it goes on itch and goes into that feed, or I'm on their mailing list. And so, like, who the hell knows? I don't know what anybody's doing, which is a bummer. Because that was another positive of Twitter, is that I had my finger on the pulse. I knew what people were doing. But I can't go to another social media page. Like, I can't just, like, jump to Threads or Blue Sky or whatever and be like, I'll just do it there. Surely it will be better there. Because it won't be. It won't be. Luna, I 100% agree that is the best solution, is to just have coffee together. Like, over the summer, I just sat down and got coffee with Josh Hitty, He was one of my favorite designers, and he lives he's like 10 minutes away from me. And we sat down and had coffee together. Like, what an idea to actually sit down and see each other face to face. It was really nice. Yeah, Emily, 100%. That's why cons have been so good for me. Is I suddenly like connect with people. I'm like, I see you. I literally get to give you a hug or something, fist bump or something. It's good. It's really good. Really good. Really makes me feel good. So yeah, I haven't figured out the solution to the social media connection thing. I'm very grateful that I live in and around Chicago, where there's a lot of designers, and I can connect with people, like connecting with Logan and Josh and other people. Very thankful for that. But I don't know. It's good and bad. It's good and bad. Conventions were good this year. We tabled at 3 conventions: Origins, Gen Con, and PAX. Origins sucked. It was horrible. Everybody who went to Origins said the same thing. It's not a buyer's convention. I bet Origins is really fun to go to if you want to play games. But if you're there to sell things, don't go. It's not worth it. Absolutely not worth it. The one that's for playtesting is Breakout Con. At least that's how I've been told what Breakout Con is. Origins is a board game convention. Like, board games are very popular there. But even then, I know somebody who owns a pretty big board game company, and he told me their sales at Origins were horrible. It's just not worth. People are buying like tchotchkes and shit. They're buying keychains and things like that nonstop, and dice, but they're not buying games. So yeah, you know, we're not gonna go to Origins ever again. But the one good thing that came from Origins is hanging out with the Cloud Curio folks, and seeing the way that Amber had set up their booth, which was this format. It was like a U, inviting people to come out of the aisle into their shop, essentially, and shop around. And we were amazed at it. Because we had the typical setup, which was tables up against the aisle. People are walking, and then they're just like crowding up the aisle as a result. And then they don't really want to stand and look at your books because there's like people pressing up against them. And we thought it was amazing. And I reached out to Amber and I was like, can you talk to us about your booth setup and things like that? And they were more than happy to share their blueprint and everything. Very kind folks. And we used that as the inspiration then for how we set up Gen Con and PAX, which was infinitely better. We had our sort of like bookstore, invited you out of the aisle into our bookstore, and it was great. It's been so good. Gen Con was awesome. It was the first time I'd ever been to Gen Con. I've lived in Chicago pretty much my entire life and never been to Gen Con, even as an attendee. So it was my first time going to Gen Con, and it was as somebody with a booth. It was awesome. It was ridiculously busy, and huge mistake in it only being Mike and I behind the booth, because just 2 people for 4 days straight at Gen Con was exhausting. So like at the end of every day, we had no energy to do anything. It was impossible to rally and try and do something. So pretty common for us to just like get high, eat food, and watch TV at the hotel. It's kind of our thing. And that's what we did. So, but Gen Con was a really, really cool experience. And I got to meet a lot of people. And my RPG celebrity crush, Grant Howitt, said my name to me, to my face, which was probably the greatest moment of my entire life. When I went up to Grant and Chris and I was like, I don't know, I just want to let you guys know, like, I wouldn't be doing any of this design stuff if it wasn't for you. And Grant looked at me and said, "Is that so, Spencer Campbell?" And I went, "Oh my God, you know me." Which, you know, is a small thing for him to do, but it means a lot to me. So, I don't know. That's my brag thing that I was really excited about. Which of the gods would I marry and which would I kill? I'd marry Pax and kill Origins in a heartbeat. That's true. Grant Howard knows my full name or my true name, and so it controls me. I've been a puppet since August. And then we just got back from PAX a couple weeks ago, and PAX is the best. PAX is the best convention of them all. Sales wise, pretty much exactly the same as Gen Con. We'll talk about that in finances. But just like it's just the right size. The vibes are good. There's a lot of indie RPG support at PAX, and I just got to see a lot of people that mean a lot to me. It's really, really nice to have friends and see them in person. And I really got to do that at PAX, and I didn't really get to do that as much at Gen Con. Like, people came to the booth, but I didn't get to go and find people very much at Gen Con. But at Gen Con, or at PAX, I could go interact with people, and it was really, really nice. Because they were super close, and you can actually move between the aisles at PAX. Gen Con, you can't move anywhere. Yeah, every Nova game is now a Resistance thing. And I love dice. So I can't wait to go back to PAX. We're going to bring a bigger team next year. Bring 4 people. And rotate it, which will be really nice. So the conventions were really good. Otherwise, other events and stuff. I started writing some fiction work, which is something that I kind of want to see myself doing more of in the future. You know, writing games is one thing, but like I also want to like just play in spaces without having to write mechanics for things. So I started to dip my toes into writing fiction, and I really enjoyed it. I'm hoping to do a lot more of that next year. I think you're gonna see Slayers on Humble Bundle next year, which is really, really exciting. The folks at Humble Bundle reached out to me, and we chatted a little bit at PAX, and I think it's going to be in a bundle next year. So, super excited about that. The other thing, again, that we will not go into details until we get to finances, which is coming up here, is I hit my number again. I have a number that I need to make financially in order for this to be viable, and I hit it, which is a big deal for me, which is very exciting. Yeah, finances is next, right? No, it's goals. Goals and then finances. Buckle up. Goals. How'd I do on last year's goals? Pretty good, honestly. I wanted to work on Oberyn. I pretty much did that. I'm calling it Gila. I wanted to work on the Novaverse. Absolutely nailed that. Wrote Dusk Denizens, Nest, Luna, Factions, and I've got a whole bunch of other Novaverse stuff. 2024 is the year of Nova. Faction turns, wanted to work on that. Kind of did it. Kind of translated the light thing. It's okay. Lore and fiction writing. I want to do more. Started doing it with Nova. I want to keep doing that. Excited about that. I would like to do, or last year I wanted to do more international publishing. I did. I added Japan and Korea to the list. Possibly China. We haven't figured that out yet. Card game. I wanted to work on a card game. You better believe it. I'm real close to having a card game. I really just need to playtest the hell out of it. But I think like it's pretty good as it is right now. I also wanted to go to more conventions. Succeeded on that. Went to Origins and Gen Con, which I hadn't gone before. Never going to go to Origins ever again, but added those. And then next year I plan on going to Breakout Con and Gamehole Con. Breakout Con is in March. I'm not going to have a table there. It's just for like playtesting things and like being on panels and stuff. I think I'm going. Still waiting to hear from them, but I think I'm going. And then Gamehole is in Madison, which a few folks told us at PAX about Gamehole Con and how it's getting bigger and better. And Madison is so close to us. And it's like, why are we not going to this? So we'll go to it. I agree, Luna. Don't like saying the name. Don't like it. Feel like they really could have done just 5 more minutes on ideating on that. But What do I know? I write things like factions. So I have no leg to stand on. That's last year's goals. Here's my goals for next year. Continue the Novaverse. Absolutely going to be doing a lot of that. I want to table at least 3 conventions. So it should be Gamehole, PAX, Gen Con. I want to try and get a balance of smaller games alongside my bigger ones. Loot, I consider a smaller thing. Dusk, obviously, is a smaller thing. I've got the bigger things like Gila Hack and Nova 2 and things like that. I want to embrace sprint crowdfunding. I just think I want to do only this from here on out. I don't want to do long campaigns anymore. Long campaigns are just so hard. Very hard on me. I would like to have a more scheduled streaming thing. I would like to have a plan. I just kind of jump on when I jump on sort of thing. But I would like to have a schedule. So that I have things, plans. People can know that I'm going to stream at a certain time. Can I describe sprint crowdfunding? Yeah, absolutely. Sprint crowdfunding is basically just a crowdfund that is in a week or less. The campaign is 1 week or less. That's how I describe it. I borrowed the idea from Travis Hill, who did that for pretty much all of his stuff. I think he's even done some 3-day campaigns. The reason behind sprint crowdfunding is because traditionally, for pretty much every crowdfund, is you're going to have 2 strong days in the beginning. Because that's the launch, everybody's getting the emails about it, everyone's hyping about it. You have 2 strong days, then you plateau. Nothing happens. The needle barely moves for a while. Slow, gradual increase. And then the last 2 days are big because, again, people get a bunch of emails saying, hey, you're running out of time. So really, there's just 4 days of intense activity. And if you have a 30-day campaign, you're sitting there in agony for over 3 weeks. It's really, really horrible. So if you have it for just 7 days, you got 2 strong days in the beginning, 2 strong days at the end, and you got 3 days of lull in the middle, which is just enough time for you to actually plan things on each of those days to keep the hype going. Plan an event and a stream or something like that. And then boom, you're done. And you're good. 30 days of looking at the numbers is so good for the brain. Yeah, it's real healthy. Real healthy. So anyway, I want to do more streaming. I want to obviously keep doing my design streams and design commentary and stuff like that. I have a couple of ideas for shows. I would like to bring back Coffee Break. I keep saying I'm going to do it and then I don't. I should do it. I want to do a show called Lonely Fun, which is doing the Lonely Fun, the GM prep of a bunch of different systems. Not solo games. I'm not talking about solo RPGs. I'm talking about games that have an interesting prep component or world building component or something like that for the GM to do outside of the game. Because that's some of my favorite stuff to do. I do really enjoy doing that. So I have a list of some games. I need more recommendations, and then I think I'll do that. I would also like to do world building streams. Especially if I'm going to just really dive into Nova. I want to do streams that are not about designing the game, but about building the world up. And lore videos. Because I'm just a lore junkie. I just, one of my favorite YouTubers just uploaded a 13-hour lore video for Elden Ring. And you better believe I'm going to watch all of it. Because I'm an addict. And I need it. So I would like to make lore. Nobody will care about it, but I want to do it anyway. This will be a me project for me to have fun. Yeah, Cassie, I would like to bring back Coffee Break. I'll have you on it. That'll be fun. I want to play more IRL games. I was just saying before the stream that I don't play role-playing games. I don't play them. I play in real life board games and card games. I'd like to play more. I'm hoping to play more role-playing games. One of my very, very good friends, I believe, is moving back to Chicago in the spring. And if he does that, and if he moves to where I think he's moving, then he, Mike, and I can basically get together every week and play role-playing games, which will be awesome. But I'm waiting for that to happen. Still need to figure out the whole social media thing. Don't know how I'm going to solve that. I thought about reopening my Patreon, and then I don't know. I don't think I'm going to do it. I thought about it. I just don't think I'm going to do it. So I'm going to just take it off the list. Okay. That's projects. That's social media. That's goals. That's everything like that. I'm going to start talking about finances. So this is your, like, warning of you don't want to hear about money, numbers, and stuff like that. You can head on out. But if you want to hear about numbers, finances, and things like that, I'm a very open book. So I'm going to show you all my stuff. I'm going to show you most of the stuff. You're going to be so scared the whole time. Yeah. I guess. Oh, wait. My shoutouts. Real quick, my shoutouts. Forgot about my shoutouts. My RPG of the year goes to Dot Dungeon by Snow. It's incredible. Non-RPG game of the year goes to Drapolter by Oink Games. I'm gonna buy so many copies of this when I'm in Japan next summer. It's so dumb, but it's so fun. And then shout out to the RPG Zine Club. The Plus One EXP crew are running this. I'm member 23, which I was very excited about to get Michael Jordan's number. Every month you get a zine sent to you. It's very good. And it's about, like, building up people in the community and stuff like that. It's great. Awesome subscription service. Really excited about it. So yeah, those are my last minute shoutouts. Now we're going to get into money. So I'm going to talk about money in sort of three different things. I'm going to talk about revenue, which means money in, costs, money out, and then the net, right? Yeah, it is real. It's real. It's out there. But it's not called HelloFresh. That's true. So I'm going to talk about revenue. When you see the revenue number, keep in mind that this does not have costs in it. Then I'm going to talk to you about costs. Then I'm talking about the net. Okay? All right, let's talk about money. In 2023, as of today, still a week or so left, but whatever. Revenue is approximately $112,000. Around there. So again, that's without costs. How does that break down? Let's break down where $112,000 comes from. And I'm not pocketing $112,000. About $26,000 comes from itch on its own. Itch, I had about 2,100 orders, if you will, people buying things off of itch. My biggest month was January, which pulled in 4,600 because of Rune. Rune was a game that released a year ago. It technically released at the end of 2022, in December. But it really kind of started in January. So January was kind of like the release month of Rune, or part of the release window of Rune, which is why it was so big. So January was very big. January was big last year, or no, January was not big last year. June was big last year, 2022, because of my Slayers 1.5 release. So the biggest months obviously coincide with the biggest games getting released. So Rune is my biggest game of all time. It's my most purchased game. 814 people bought Rune this year. Just on itch. It's not physical copies. And it's only been out a month or a year, and it's sold more than Slayers has across Slayers' lifetime, more than Nova. People like it, which goes back to why I was kind of like confused about Reap. Um, Hunt, without any crowdfunding or anything like that, sold 267 copies on itch. I think that's great. I think that's really good. I like to point out Lumen. Lumen sold 144. People do not have to buy Lumen. Most people, if they do, they'll tip like $2, which is nice. Lumen has been downloaded 36,000 times across its lifetime, which is like a real wild number. A lot of people downloading Lumen. Hopefully they like it. Maybe they don't, though, based off of that Reddit post. So that's itch. That's digital purchases. Physical purchases are Shopify. So I sell all my books on Shopify. 607 orders. Conversion rate is 3.5%. What does that mean? It means 3.5% of people who end up on my store buy something. I have no idea if that number is good, bad, what it looks like compared to other people. Couldn't tell you. I have no point of comparison. That's just what it is. Biggest month, again, obviously was January because of the release of Rune. Sold 146 copies of Hunt. Super excited about that. Again, without a Kickstarter, Hunt did really well. 288 copies of Rune have been shipped out directly from my store. Top referrers, meaning how do people find my Shopify page? If it's not from a social media site, it's from itch, which makes sense. Every single one of my game pages has a link to where you buy the book, so you're going to come from itch. The second biggest non-social media thing is my Rune website. I technically have a Rune website, runerpg.game, I think, maybe. I don't even know what it is. But what it's telling me is I should make one of these for every one of my games, because a lot of people came from that website, and that website is linked basically through my main website, GilaRPGs.com. So I should probably do that. I should probably make a game website for each game. Doesn't have to be super big, but just something. So I should do that. Social media sites, obviously. Oh, there you go. Rune RPG, the Rune website pops up first. There you go. That makes sense. Obviously, most people are coming from Twitter if they're coming from a social media source. The second biggest is YouTube. Which, like, maybe from my videos? I don't know. I don't know which videos those would be. I don't have that specific data. So that's selling my games online and through my store. Then we have conventions, which is about 20K that we pulled in conventions. As you can see, Origins was horrible. Origins basically just covered its costs, and that was it. Gen Con, which is the biggest board game convention in North America, 4 days long, we sold $8,800. We were really, really happy with that. And then we ended up selling $8,500 at PAX, which is 1 day less and a smaller convention. PAX was wild this year. Everybody we talked to, PAX was really, really good. So yeah, really, really happy with these numbers in terms of the convention stuff. Kickstarter, 36K. I ran 3 Kickstarters. Reap was the biggest one, then the Rune card collection, which pretty much just broke even, and then Null. And then wholesale, I've sold about $72.50 in wholesale stuff, which is pretty much just Indie Press, Exalted, and then like a few other shops, and some people buy wholesale directly at conventions. Do you go to conventions with target numbers? We don't go with like a specific number in mind. I wanted to do better than we did at PAX last year, and if I recall off the top of my head, PAX last year we did 5,600, if I'm remembering correctly. So I wanted to at least match that, and we did. But I don't have like a specific number. I mean, I would say I want to break even, and then I don't have a number beyond that. I packed a lot better for PAX this year than I did last year, because I had data to know how many books I should bring. and we brought exactly the right amount of books. We brought 6 boxes, and we came back with 1. Really, really happy with that. Accidentally, inadvertently did search engine optimization by making rune site, because again, the children yearn for runes. They do. They yearn. So that's revenue. My costs are about 42,000. What are costs? But we didn't have book stands. I forgot so many things for PAX. Forgot so many things. Thank God for you all at the Plus One EXP booth giving us those book stands. Otherwise, we would have driven to New Jersey to figure out a solution. My costs are sitting at about 42,000. What are costs? I'm not breaking that down as much. But it's pretty much conventions, right? So conventions is the cost of the convention itself. Gen Con's very expensive. PAX is expensive. Origins is expensive and not worth it. Hotel, transportation, all that sort of stuff goes into conventions. Shipping and printing are the 2 biggest costs. Obviously, printing books and shipping them out are costs. And, you know, yeah, don't let merchants watch this stream. They've sent like an email to me yesterday being like, hey, your membership fees are due. Do you want to be a member? I'm like, absolutely fucking not, man. No way. No way. They were also just not nice to us. Like, they were not nice to us at the convention. Like, I got a lot of problems with that whole thing. Shipping and printing are the largest costs. Obviously, costs a lot of money to print books. And it costs a lot of money to ship books. It eats up most of your stuff. Commissions are the other big one. I have different commission setups with different people. So some people I pay flat rates because that's what they do. With Mike, I have a profit sharing thing because that's just how we have set up our thing, because we're best friends and we want to work with each other we want to kind of create a thing. And so profit sharing model works for us. So that's just like royalties getting sent out. And then there's others just like stuff like my printer and ink and like shipping materials and like random other stuff that just adds up. That is all involved with running a business. So that leaves us with approximately 70,000 net. Which is really, obviously, it's great. I'm extremely thankful for that. So to kind of talk about this number and what it means, last year, I misspoke during my stream last year in terms of what I thought I had pulled in. Last year, I thought I had made about 50K. I was wrong. I had miscalculated a lot of things. Last year, my net was 34,000. So net last year was 34,000. My net this year was 70,000. So more than doubled what last year's net was. That's hitting my number. My number is 50K. That's sort of the number that my wife and I talk about, of like, you got to be able to like make that pretty consistently for this to be like your thing. So I hit it. I hit it again. I shouldn't say again, because I didn't hit it last year. I thought I did, and I didn't. But I did hit it this year. So I'm really, really thankful for that. I'm very, very thankful to everybody who's obviously supported me this year to make this number a possibility. So yeah, that's my net. With a pin, or not a pin, a star or whatever. Gotta pay taxes. Gotta pay taxes on that. So is that what I actually walk away with? No. Gotta pay taxes. what I like to think about the net as is a salary, right? You have your salary, and then obviously you pay taxes on your salary, at least here in the United States. So this is like looking at a 70K salary that you pay taxes on. So that's kind of how I see this number. Not 70K that goes all into my pocket because I got to pay taxes anyway, but it's like getting hired for a job that says, here's your salary is $70,000. You're going to pay taxes on it. That's my number. So yeah, that's it. That's my thing. Obviously the goal is to keep hitting that. Hitting it every time if I can. You typically, I thought, at least last year, I thought about the biggest moneymaker is Kickstarter, because that's how Rune was so big. And Kickstarter really wasn't the big pusher this year, because Null was fine, Reap was good, and then the card collection was a disaster. What I'm now starting to see is having a catalog and a tail, right? I now have a thing where somebody finds me, they see a new game that I have, they're interested in this game, they buy that and they go, what else has this person made? And then there's a whole catalog now of things that they can look at and they can buy. There are a lot of people who came to the booth this year and said, what's new this year? They know me, they have my catalog, and they want to expand the catalog. So this is what I'm starting to experience now, is like the long tail of things, right? Is having the catalog and having that ability to sort of have games of the past just sort of passively make money without having to do much with them. Part of that is also the international publishing, right? International publishing. I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is send them the files. So that's kind of my goal, is to do more stuff like that. And to have that sort of be a thing that I continue to work on. So yeah, that's my year in review. It was a pretty good year. Pretty good year. I'm really, really very thankful for that. Obviously, huge, obvious, like, I wouldn't be able to do any of this if I didn't come from a wild place of privilege. That has to be acknowledged, right? I have the ability to do this because a million different reasons. So it's important to acknowledge that, and this is not just some random number that I grabbed. But yeah, hopefully this was interesting, educational, fun, all that sort of stuff. Thank you for absolving me. So yeah, that was my year. We'll see what next year has in store. I got goals, I got plans and things like that, and we'll keep it going. But that's it for now.